My dear friends, I am mad as hell. Look at what's happening in our country. We have a report last week that in the third quarter, July, August, and September of this year, the capitalist class earned $1,659,000,000,000, which is the highest in over 30 years, the highest quarter that they ever had. At the same time, we have 14 million people out of work. Now, that's very interesting. They made the highest profit that they ever made with 14 million people out of work. Therefore, the working people who are creating the wealth in the production are being exploited even more than ever in our own country for the purpose of making profits. And that's what it's all about. It's got to come to an end. We've got to look at this properly. We've got to say, is this democracy? I don't call that democracy. I call that a distortion of democracy, because people have to live, and we're talking about democracy, we're talking about the majority of the people. The capitalist class is not the majority of the people. They're the majority of 1.5% to 1% owning about 60 to 70% of all the wealth in the country. It's too much. And then what do? We were very, very proud. We built a middle class in this country. We're supposed to be the number one middle class producer. What are we doing to the middle class? Why, we put them into a peculiar kind of fictitious capital in the mortgage system, where a profit to the banks would take place later on when the prices would have to come down, since they had already pushed them up. And we can't even stop them from foreclosing. And as they foreclose, they won't give the middle class a chance to sell their homes and pay off the mortgages and have something left for themselves. Is that a way to treat the middle class? We're talking about the working population of the country. Is one thing, producing a hell of a lot more per person of profits for them. And then the middle class to be destroyed and robbed? This is not a democratic country that we all brag about. We got a big word, democracy, but look at the history of struggles in our country where people were really fighting for real democracy. And today, we're getting the worst of it. Why? Because the finance capitalist group in this country is only interested in privatization, in their private accumulation. They've affected all of Europe by now, and Europe is also in trouble. Now, the New York Times was very, very aware of it when we got the information about the 1.659 trillion. The Times had an editorial, and they were saying, what about the people who are working? What about their houses? What about the food? What about the poverty? What about jobs? That's where this country is at, and we have to begin to raise hell about it. If we don't raise hell, you watch how the compromises will take place in the Congress, because Mr. Obama is not battling hard enough, and we have to make him battle and make the battle come out into the open. Because unless we stop the increased exploitation, which is incidentally a production for a war machine that we're building up, if we don't stop that by raising hell and making it clear that the people do not think the country is democratic, I think that we are going to go down the drain. And we also have to give some thought to our foreign policy at the same time. There was an interesting article I want to point out yesterday in the New York Times on the columns on the last page about how the Chinese would be looking at us the way we look at them. And I recommend that you read it if you can get it. I'll put it on my email list for those of you who are on my list. In the meantime, I want you to please think about democracy. Please think about the people, the majority of the people, the working population, the middle class, the ones who create the wealth in this country and who help to distribute the commodities so that the realization of the profits will take place in the market. Even the economics that is taught in our country is economics that the wealth comes from the market. The wealth does not come from the market where they turn commodities that have been produced by labor and labor time, which it gives it its value, and then it finds its way through to the market and then turned into money. That's classical economics, which is the true economics. Wealth is developed in production, then it's distributed. It is realized in the money form in the market. And that they teach you that that's where the wealth comes from. No, that's where the wealth is gathered by a very, very small group in our country. And I hope that people will open up their minds and open up their mouths and get together with others and begin to make our voices felt. We're going into 2012. If it continues the way it's been going in the political scene in 2012, if we get a right-wing Republican Congress and a right-wing president, I don't know what's going to happen in this country. I'm an old person, and I feel sorry for many of the people who have to live through the chaos that could develop. Try to stop it now by raising your voices now. And I hope that you listen, and I hope that you sound off. Thank you very much.